everybody, that kitchen door just closed. No, I'm serious. Listen to that song. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking French fries, some apple turnovers, some chocolate cake, some Coca-Cola. You never know what happens in that door. I'm just saying. Yeah. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Music Monday show. I mean that for a good reason. We're your hosts, Nancy and Lisa, you know, the crazy mother-daughter travel team on the Love Your Park store, publishers of Big Blend magazines, all kinds of different magazines. And that was Happy Eating Theme. That song, like seriously, and the bass just makes, you know, it's like you went down the stairs, you opened the fridge, and you got the leftovers, you got all that. Damn, that is good. That is the first track from the album Old Trio. So Old Monsters, there's also the New Monsters. So we got to talk about that. And it's by acclaimed and award-winning bass player and composer Steve-Horowitz. And the album is out now. In fact, there's two. The second one is Mr. E, and that's a special piece. So we're not going to play that today because that you need to go get with both of them. So it's very cool. Go to SteveHorowitzMusic.com. Welcome to the show, Steve. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on your show.
So am I okay with going down the stairs and opening the fridge? Because it did feel like it. And the bass was like, you can do it. And the piano is telling me, like, you got the sugar high. You went from happy to happy, and then you're going back down. And the drums are like, dude, you're cool. You can get through this. Like, that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, that piece specifically has been known to cause diabetes in children. You know, just by listening to it.
Just a little supersize, right? And so this is really part of your Supersize Me, and the people, everyone. Steve wrote that for the Academy Award-nominated film Supersize Me. Remember when those movies came out, man? It was like that was when, like, I think Michael Moore and him actually really were the beginning of the groundbreaking documentaries, like. This is what's happening to us with some of these big brands that we didn't know, and where we started to really take a look at documentary film as something serious. And the music is important because it's still storytelling. And that movie, that documentary, was like a real look at what was going on. And I think your music is so important because it's part of that. This is what it's the feeling of it. You're giving the emotion, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. And, you know, when I originally was working on Supersize Me with Morgan, and we did what's called a spotting session where you sit down with the film and we looked at it together. When it was in a, can you hear me?
Yes.
When it was in a very rough stage, we watched the film together, and then actually as I was leaving the editing suite, that I was hearing that music in my head.
Wow.
And it's interesting, and it's like the things you don't think about. I wasn't thinking about Americana or any of that, but it came out that way. And, you know, when we decided to redo it, you know, and look back on that piece, it actually seems to translate really well. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so now you put it on this album, but this is a little different, right, from the original documentary composition,
oh, yeah.
right?
Very different take on it. Yep.
Listen, the album covers have a T brand going on there. It's really cool. I'm not going to give their name out, but I think it's cool that because there's a green color, okay? And when I listened to this and I was like, it's the Happy Eating Theme, for some reason, I don't know if it's that Nancy and I are in different houses across the country pet sitting as we do our park travels and everything, but you see how people live around the world, around the country, and some people do it around the world. And color palettes, and that green, which is the green from the tea box, that's what I see as the robe going to the fridge at 1 a.m. when you know you shouldn't, but your body wants it, and you're going in because you know you had leftovers in there. And the reason you have leftovers is probably because you didn't want people to know that you really want to eat the whole thing. Then you put it in the fridge, but you have that green. There's like a green and white terry cloth kind of robe that I've seen. I don't know where, what home, what, but there's that green. I don't know if it's like a 70s thing almost in a way. Do you know what? There's those robes that you just go, people have those robes. You say robes? Robes.
let me go on a little diatribe for a second, if I may, about the cover of this album. So I will name the brand. So I myself am a huge fan of Sleepy Time Bear.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of Sleepy Time tea. I like it.
I do.
So, I think Sleepy Time gets a raw deal, like a really raw deal. I mean, you've got your Paddington Bear. You got your Winnie the Pooh. He's cool. Okay, we can't say anything about Winnie. You've got your Care Bears, right? They're all super popular, but nobody knows about Sleepy Time. And frankly, he makes way more money than any of those other bears. I mean, but he gets no respect. I mean, this guy is unbelievable.
Celestial.
He's sitting by his radio. He's listening probably to NPR. He's falling asleep. I mean, this guy, he's a Zen master. He should have his own show. He's never had his own show. I'm advocating for him to have his own show. Maybe he can grow herbs in the back. He can help his friends in the forest.
Can you give him a rope? Give him a rope. He needs a rope.
Absolutely. He can have a robe. He has his hat.
Like Paddington Bear.
I'm just saying that, the other bears kind of suck compared to Sleepy Time, yet they get so much more play. And I don't know why. And it's something I'm upset about it.
It's a Bear Mountain picnic. That's what it is. But then that was a tragedy. But
right.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. Can we have I would like to have a bear album, a bear picnic. Dylan's Bear Mountain Picnic was pretty brutal, but I love that song. It's a Bear Mountain Picnic. But
if you look on the cover, if you look in the back on the cover, Sleepy Time's he's in the control room mixing our album.
I see him there.
See, he's cool.
Yeah.
So
for copyright reasons, for copyright purposes, that's not Sleepy Time. Let me just say that.
But can we have a bear party? I would like to invite Paddington Bear, Gummy Bear. Gummy Bear is apparently a very happy Sleepy Time bear too across the country. I'm just saying.
Then you have to invite.
All I'm saying is compare Sleepy Time, right, to Paddington. I mean, Paddington's wearing a raincoat for 40 years? I mean, come on. Has it been raining that long? I mean, we're having a drought in California.
Well, not anymore. Not anymore, because we have climate change. And so we may have to see Paddington in dress at some point. But it's not the same as the robe. I want the green robe. I want the terry cloth, go down to the kitchen, and you're not supposed to be up. And you go hang out with the bears. Go hang out with Sleepy Time. But you want to wake up and go in that fridge. You can make the tea. You can have the tea, because after you eat, you can go back up and go Sleepy Time. It's very good.
Well, you can, especially if you put some whiskey in it.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
I think there is a reason Sleepy Time's nodding off all the time. So
you think? My granny taught me that.
Your music being so trippy too, because I think there's something with the piano playing that just takes you trip, and there's three of you, right? So can you tell us about the old monsters and the new monsters?
Yeah, so the New Monsters project was started by myself and saxophone player Dan Plonzi. We put out 3 albums with myself and Dan, also with Steve Adams, who's plays with the Robo Saxophone Quartet, Jim Bovey on drums, and who am I missing? And Scott on piano, and myself playing bass. Variety of different compositions. People can go look those up. Just type in New Monsters or Steve-Horowitz. But we put out actually 4 albums that way. And recently, with the new project, I wanted to get just the rhythm section together, which was me and Jim and Scott. And we thought, well, we're older now. So, instead of being the New Monsters, we became the Old Monsters.
Not sleepy, though. When it's Sleepy Time, that gets a little scary. Like, you can't be sleepy yet.
I mean, my hero is Sleepy Time, so if you look on the album, I'm in the chair, I'm sleeping, so, I own my sleepiness. It's fine.
Oh, but then you're in the Bay Area, right? You're in San Francisco?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to wait for the fog to lift, so you get to be sleepy a lot. That's kind of cool, that fog that comes in the morning. It's hard to get used to after, we used to live in the desert, and when we got to the Bay Area, and up in the Pacific Northwest, I'm ready for 4 a.m. sunrise, go photograph things. No, that doesn't happen. It's like, that doesn't exist. What are you talking about? But there's a whole magic to it. With that weather, does that weather help you with creativity?
I think so.
Yeah.
I lived in New York City for 10 years. I lived in Amsterdam and the Netherlands for 4 years, and I am very, very happy to be back in the San Francisco Bay Area.
It's beautiful, man. It's so beautiful.
City vibes got to be drastically different.
Yeah.
Like Amsterdam. Whoa.
Doesn't it kind of connect in a way? In a weird way,
actually,
I think it kind of connects.
Well,
go ahead.
You know what's interesting is I had more culture shock going from Amsterdam to New York City than I did going from San Francisco to Amsterdam.
Yeah, I get that. Well,
I get it. Yeah.
Well, we lived in. I was raised in Kenya, England, South Africa. England, a short amount of time, and then we came back to the States. And you want to talk about culture shock? I didn't even understand what grocery stores, like why do you have? And that was the first thing my aunt did. She's like, oh, I have a niece, blah blah. Take her to the mall. And I go in the mall, I'm like, there's no security. And then she's like, no, we got to go to the pizza. And we got to have the big pizza. And I'm like, cool, American pizza. But then you couldn't just have a small root beer. You had to have the giant, and talk about supersize me, right? The giant thing. And I'm going, I don't understand this. I don't even know if I like root beer. And actually, sorry, I don't. Nancy loves it. I don't. I can't help it. It's okay. I could drink a little bit of it, but it's not my thing. I grew up on ginger beer. But so it was this, because it was so overly sweet to me, it was weird. And so the culture shock really exists, man. It's like,
it's true. There's more culture shock coming to the States. Like when I went to Kenya from the States, there was some culture shock because I went and lived in the bush, not in a city. But coming back to the States was harder. It's just overwhelming compared. Like going into Kenya, living in the bush was so relaxed.
But going to New York City from Amsterdam, I would think it would be kind of connect. I would think it would. I think of New Amsterdam or whatever. Wouldn't that be kind of similar? What was it for you for the culture shock?
Well, just about what we're talking about here. I mean, I think America in general is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Compared to other places in the world. But, Amsterdam was a lot more like San Francisco. Amsterdam had, in Holland in general, just the bike culture there. It's a beautiful city, one of the most beautiful cities at night that I've ever been in. And, lots of stuff going on. It's nothing like New York. New York City is like a big, you know what New York City is. It's a beast. It's a big metropolis, and you put on your armor and you get on the subway.
Yeah, it's not. It's like I'm sure. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble here, but it's got multiple personalities every 10 minutes as compared to cities that have a distinct personality. If you know what I mean. Like,
well, that is its personality. That is its personality.
Well, New York is very much a place, at least in my mind, that New York City depends. What type of place it is really depends on your socioeconomic status. If you live in certain areas and you take cabs everywhere and beautiful views, I mean, New York can be very relaxing. If you live in other places where, not as beautiful, you're always on the subways or you're always, whatever the neighborhoods are, it's just really, really different. New York has beautiful places by the water, by the East River, also by the Hudson. I mean, we lived up in Washington Heights, beautiful. We had beautiful vistas of the Hudson and everything like that. But it really just depends where you live and, what you can afford.
So with this album now, is everybody in San Francisco, or do you have? Who's who?
That was recorded here in San Francisco with my band here.
Okay, cool. Because San Francisco is the water and the history, and I know it's going through a lot of change, but that's the way it's supposed to be in cities, you know. You know, this album it's interesting. So this is kind of like you went back in your vault a bit, right? And kind of like, hey, I want to redo these songs.
Absolutely. So, you know, it was an opportunity to go in the studio. Like I said, you know, you take a great drummer like Jim and a fantastic pianist like Scott, you put them together in the studio, and it's magic, you know.
Totally.
So, and for this one, just to explain, the new Monsters albums were all based on composers thematically for the composers. So the first album, all the music was written by Dan, and in the second album series, all the compositions were by Scott. So in this one, the compositions were by me, and what I wanted to do was go back and look at some of these older pieces and retool them for, you know, a trio. And a group of players that I played with for a long time. So, you know, there were pieces from Super Size Me, pieces from a television show that I worked on called I Bet You Will, that were reworked and, you know, put back together in different ways.
So what led you to composing for screen? I mean, were you in band for, or were you always into that? Because I see you also do things about gaming and stuff, you know, so there's like a whole... You seem to capture the moment. Like we do so many music interviews, right? And musicians will come on, I'll go, that needs to be a soundtrack. Like you can visually trip out to their music.
And so in your mind when you're hearing the music.
What led you to get into that like genre? Because it's cool. I mean, to me it would be fun to do. I mean,
total not planned dumb luck. I mean, I started out as a, you know, rock and roll little kid guitar player when I grew up in Miami. And when I moved out to California just before high school, I switched over to playing bass. I found my instrument. I'm a bass player. I'd always been doing composing and playing in different rock bands, and then I started playing jazz, and then I started playing, you know, getting interested in classical and contemporary classical music. So one thing led to another, but I never had a plan to have a career in music for visual media or for games or for film. You know, I studied for a while at the California Institute of the Arts, and when I was there, they told me I was going to, you know, make weird music and die poor. I'm like, this is great. I was into a lot of very experimental music, you know, of the 20th and 21st centuries.
Die poor.
And when I first was contacted, you know, to do music for games and for film, you know, I was like, you know, yeah, let's try it, let's do it, and I found out very quickly that I really love writing music for visual media. So, you know, it just happened. It wasn't a dream of mine since I was a kid.
But you know, the idea that you're supposed to know what you're going to be or choose what you're going to be when you're like 8 or 9, 10 years old, it's kind of, come on, seriously?
Well, no, I started playing music when I was 6. I took guitar lessons in Miami, Florida, with a guitar player named I still remember his name. I was at the House of Music, and check this out: the people who lived next to us ran the House of Music. Their last name was Bard. I'm not joking.
That's funny.
So they ran the House of Music, and I took guitar lessons with Felix Valadispino. I still remember this from when I'm 6 years old. And he told me all about his cool rock band he had called Agape, which I had no idea what that meant for probably like 30 years. So I started out, I knew I was going to be a musician from when I was 6 years old. I never did anything else. I didn't know what I would be doing specifically, but all I ever did was music. All I ever was interested in was music, and I'm glad it worked out, because otherwise I don't know what I would be doing.
Yeah, but when you listen to your music, like, you trip out. And, you know, going through this album and just that, I wonder about the bass playing, and I know I always talk about this with bass players on the show, because I think bass playing brings you to the main part, and you have a lot of jazz infusion with what you do. But what I love about your jazz part, just me personally, is that you have these little cliff notes of hanging us here and there. So you bring this human element in, how a human being will move around a room or go to the fridge again or go sleepy time, But you have this human element in jazz where, okay, what's going on is you can trip out, like literally. Like it's perfect. Like I told Nancy, he has cat music.
Mm-hmm. It's totally
and
cat.
I said to Nancy, she always goes, okay, what's the music about? I said, it's cat music.
Yeah,
I know this sounds crazy, but cats, well, they walk and they do this little.
You have the strut. You have the strut.
There was
like
the little Poochie Boy cat we had. He would strut and his tail would be up, and then he would stop. Look.
I could make a whole video of the song you just played with the cats playing the bass.
Yes.
And cats, like, I already saw like a little cat in a bikini serving food, French fries on the floor, sliding it to the bass player. No, dude, because
I know.
Totally
so
cat.
Welcome to our weird show, but but you bring in this human or animal or bear element, cats, bears, But it's about the stops that you do. It's a little different than listening to a regular jazz band. You can go to a jazz club and everyone's riffing and doing the big jam, which is great and awesome. But there's something very human. And Nancy and I don't know if it's just because Nancy and I are basically professional people watchers, especially traveling the country. We stop places and we just sit, have a glass of wine and people watch. Mm-hmm. And create stories of the people around us. And then we argue about them.
Because
sometimes
we sit in a rest area and we watch somebody walk and we can say what song they're walking to.
Or are they having an affair? Like who's, what's going on? Are they doing a drug deal? So anyway, there's a whole thing going on. But listening to your music, I feel like your music really goes with what's going on around us. I mean, is that because of writing green and for games and stuff, or is that, do you know what I mean about this? I know it sounds weird, but it's kind of true. You got people watching music, animal watching music too, because you bring in the breath, and I feel like the bass brings in
the foundation.
It's the foundation of it, of like, this is going to happen now,
Bass players are the best.
That's what all my bass player friends say.
I know.
It's got to be nice to the drummer too, because he's part of the foundation.
It's
you
the
guys
foundation.
are together.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about that part of being a bass player. Do you think is that part of the humanizing part of it?
Good question. I mean, I think
it's weird. I know.
Well, one of the things about what you're hearing on this new album is about 5 or 6 years ago, I got a new bass, which is a 5-string acoustic electric bass.
Oh.
So it's not an upright bass, and it's not an electric bass.
Kind of sounds like an upright bass, yeah.
I know, but it's it sounds different. It's got a different character too. It's very it's a very beautiful sound, and it's a very acoustic sound. And I love it to death. And it's pretty much, I've been playing it pretty much exclusively for the last several years. So maybe that's what you're hearing, is the sound of this amazing, beautiful bass.
Well, do you know what I mean, though, about people watching? Like that you're getting the human element in there? Or cats? That there's the pause, it's the pausing and the breathing aspect.
Well, you know what?
I know
maybe
that's weird.
Maybe it's also the fact that you're listening to tracks that are really played by humans, and there's no overdubs on this album. We're playing it all live.
It's see, that's a big deal to me. Like in music, like I love it when people are just playing it out. And I've watched the videos of you guys all in there doing stuff and then all masked up and everything too. I mean, it's like that's so hard to. Is that hard to play masked up? Or do you just get used to it?
It's fine. It's not fun, but it's
okay. Yeah. Well, let's play "I Am No Ordinary Mortal" because this is also actually part of the vocals on your second album, and that is Mr. E. So, can you tell us a bit about the second album and then this track?
Sure. So Mr. E is dedicated in homage to my longtime friend and amazing percussionist and drummer who I played with for many years in New York City, Michael Evans, who passed away tragically last year. Michael was famous for, you guys will like this, he was famous for leaving the most insane phone machine messages ever. And in fact, at his memorial, which was held at Roulette in New York, which is a avant-garde performance space, holds about 200 people, which was packed to the gills, almost everybody to a point who came up and spoke at the memorial had tales of his phone machine messages. And so all of the titles on this album and what you're hearing on Mr. E is actually bits and pieces of his voice that have been mixed together with found sounds and improvisational, music and all sorts of different influences and lots of percussion because he was a drummer and a percussionist. And that's all mixed together, and you hear his voice on the second album. And that's like one cut that's like 22 minutes. And it really takes you on a journey. And all the titles for the Old Monsters album were taken from that phone machine message. So I think that's really
I love it because he's like, I am no ordinary mortal.
I want to give you a phone machine message.
Yeah.
Would you care for ravioli or some casual sex?
Yeah, we used to do that. In South Africa, we used to call people up and do that. And we had a running poll. It's very weird. But it's an odd thing. Sex won over the ravioli until we got one guy. It's
that's true because you could one's first and the second, after.
Simultaneously.
Oh, both, yes. I all at the same time. Why not? Just swim in a big bath.
Nobody ever said both.
No, well, nobody. It was beyond the refrigerator running. But that's what I think that Michael Evans was so great. I mean, and everyone, the album, Mr. E, that also is a fundraiser, right?
Right. So all the proceeds from that album go to. They started a series and a program, children's program at Roulette that it's funded by. So all the funds go to that fundraising effort. Yeah.
Awesome. And everyone, Steve-Horowitz music.com is a website to go to, but we're going to play this because he did have the vocals of this from the I love this. I miss voice machines, like old school voice machines. Our answering machine. Remember the tape answering machine? When Nancy had her magazine in South Africa, it was called Splash, and the message machine. This is how high end we were. Was the dog drinking water out of a so because it was splashing and it sounded cool. So when he called up, you'd hear a dog drinking water. It just hasn't changed very much. So anyway, here it is. We're going to play I Am No Ordinary Mortal. Take a listen. everyone. I am no ordinary mortal, and everyone, that is on the latest Steve-Horowitz album called Old Monsters Trio, vocally also on the album Mr. E. So, Steve, see what I mean? That, like, you have that humanity in there. You do. You have, like, you know, when you listen to it, you go on a trip. Now I was on the subway. Like, I don't know, now that we talked about New York, I went there. And it's just, the dynamics are incredible. That is really the thing. The dynamics and the musicianship. You guys as a trio are insanely good. It's awesome. It's really awesome to listen to. And listening again, the bass, it's interesting because I was listening at the very beginning going, sounds like a stand-up bass, but it's not quite. And like when you re-listen now knowing, it is different and it's cool. That's really cool. So is it it's not stand-up, right?
Yeah, it's not an upright bass. It's played like an electric bass, but it's acoustic. And you know, it's all about the bass. I mean, you know, really, I mean, yeah, the other guys are cool, but you know, we could get rid of them, and the bass would be all we would need, right? I mean,
you can't have this sleepy time bear take out the other dude. That's not right. He's too sleepy. He's too chilled out. You know, you just hope someone comes in with poison or something. I don't know. Not kidding. No, these guys are good. These guys, I mean, it's got to be just a blast playing together, right? And being able to do it in person.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and we've been friends for a long time. We played a lot of music together. Scott's an amazing virtuoso piano player. Jim is a top-notch, fantastic, one of the best drummers in the Bay Area. So, you know, it's a pleasure to work with those guys. And when they don't do things right, I get to throw things at them, which is also good.
Oh, that's cool.
Listen, sleepy time bears not allowed to do that.
Tea bags, mostly tea bags. I just put them in tea bags.
Okay. All right.
That's
so now,
funny.
do you guys perform live anywhere? Are you going to take the album and perform live? What would be cool?
I know, wouldn't it? Yeah, COVID's put a little bit of kibosh on things.
It's hard. It keeps coming back and forth. It's like herpes. It never goes away.
I know, and a lot of the friends I have who are out touring, and then it's kind of rough right now. It's like, okay, we're in Germany, and I guess we're canceled tonight because of COVID, and I prefer to wait a little bit longer until we get out there.
It seems so, you know, and then they let all the restrictions down. So it's like, why can't we have the masks on the airplane and the masks, you know? I'm just saying personally, like the mask is not a big, it sucks, but it's not a big deal to wear. And I think when they let that stuff down, it just didn't help anything. And we're seeing so many people with it too. And it's like, I think for music, it's really difficult because people in the audience, it's where we get to trip out, right? Whether I'm not meaning drugs or alcohol, you get to trip, or maybe it's some good tea, but you get to trip out. And so you kind of forget your place, and it's like, oh, we're going to meet the musicians. Everyone's hugging, taking photographs and selfies, and then it happens, like boom, you know. So it's a hard thing, and yet you guys have all been, you know, here, do live streams. Did you do any of that during COVID, live stream stuff?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. You know, like I said, it's just, you know,
not the same.
It's hard enough traveling and being out on the road and doing all that stuff, and then to have things get canceled and then have to, you know, like I said, I just prefer to wait a little bit longer. Things stable up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, it gives you time to create more, you know.
Yeah,
I enjoy being in the studio, so that's not a difficulty for me.
So creating-wise, do you write on the bass?
I compose to, this will shock you, but I often use a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper while sitting sometimes at a piano or sometimes in a chair next to a window. And I actually don't do a lot of composing on the bass. Actually, I don't use it as a writing tool. You know, playing bass is
I thought you
performance
would,
is a performance tool for me. So yeah, mostly, you know, my composing happens either in front of a piano or other places, inside of a computer.
Dude, Seriously.
I'm
like,
old school.
well, you've got the bass
that's
sensibility. I think that's where you know where to slow it down on that human. That I know I keep saying that, but there's this. I'm going to play the album at the next rest area we go to on our next trip, and play it while people go to the rest area. The rest, because like there's just this. You understand the beat of people walking, and the beat of. And it's different scenes. If someone stops and look at, like what we just played, I mean, you could like literally, and this is just me personally, my opinion, and everyone, when you listen to music, everyone's got a different thing, which is the beauty of music and art. That it's like, you really have that, and that's why, I mean, you must be doing so well with all the compositions for screen and gaming. You understand that breath and that timing of when someone stops and turns around, or do you people watch? Are you like us in that way? I mean,
well,
do you go to
I was just thinking it. I was just thinking that it's so weird because in general I really dislike people. You know.
Yeah, we prefer animals.
You know,
honestly, we don't either. We don't like people either. We like animals and plants.
You know.
But you do have people down.
I mean, there are a few that I enjoy. You know, but
just watching people in a bar, it's like interesting.
Like in Las Vegas is the best place, but you got to guard yourself because you could get easily overwhelmed. But people watching in Las Vegas is crazy. I mean, it's nuts.
People watching is the best. We used to, when I was much younger, we used to, you know, in our 20s, we used to sit around and make up stories as we watch people walk by. So I know where you guys are coming from.
Yeah. Well, we haven't left our 20s, but our bodies don't look like that.
Yeah. Well,
it's
now
okay.
we don't talk about it as much. I just think it in my head.
I know. It's just it's an addictive thing. It's kind of a sport for us. It's like, you know, it's a sport. It's become a sport. It's become like, that's so unbelievable. It has, if it's that unbelievable,
it could happen.
But to pull it off, then you get a point. But if it's unbelievable and you're just throwing it out there, you lost a point. It's become a sport. And it's okay with me because it's using the creativity. And I think that's another big cool thing about your music. With jazz, allows people to start using the creative muscle. And it is a co-creative experience. And that's a cool thing because you've got to have that in art. I think when people don't have that, it's everybody's got their own thing, man. That's a cool thing. So let's close. Can we close with my favorite song on the album? Are you okay if we play Bad Taste for High Culture?
Absolutely.
I kind of feel like we're kind of in that now. Like it's like a sign of the times. Tell us a little bit about this song.
Oh, wow. Well, the title, again, came from Michael, from that phone machine message of madness.
No way. Really? Wow.
Yeah, and the piece itself, actually, this piece has an interesting history. This is actually a piece, this piece comes from a piece I wrote, golly gosh, probably when I was 19 or 20 years old.
Wow.
A melody that I wrote, which at that time was called Nothing Ever Happens, which was just a single note melody line that was played in unison by any number of different instruments. And
funny.
I looked back, and that was part of what was happening with this album, is looking back on some older pieces, some older work. You know, I took some excerpts from some of my string quartets or some of my chamber pieces, and we also played those on the album as well, differently, of course. But in this case, I took that melody, and I didn't want to do it exactly the same way, although I have to say I really like the melody. So in this case, I actually gave it to Scott. And I said, why don't you harmonize it or do something with it? You know, it's like, I don't know what to do with it other than what I originally did with it. And so in this case, it's a great collaboration because Scott took that melody and he's the one who harmonized the chords out and sort of created the vibe of that piece to that melody. So that's that combination of our compositional minds working together. And I really love what he did. And, you know, it's a great sound.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad we can play it. So everyone go to SteveHorowitzmusic.com. You can see the albums there. What, 29 albums or is it 29 plus, these two?
Well, 29. This album is the 29th.
Wow.
The 30th album will be coming out in August, and that is a piece that I wrote that I wrote for percussion and bass clarinet for a group. They're the Red Desert Ensemble, totally amazing duo of Devin Maxwell and Katie Porter. So that piece is going to be the 30th piece, and then after that one, 31 will be coming out, which is a reissue of my first 2 string quartets.
Wow.
And then I'm not even going to tell you guys what the 32nd album is going to be. It's going to be coming out probably around September. And that has so many animal sounds on it. You wouldn't even know.
You have to come back.
You won't even know what to do with it. I'll send it over to you guys.
You have to come back.
You guys will lose you'll just lose whatever shit
our
you
wigs.
have.
We'll lose our wigs. We don't have wigs, but it feels like a good idea to lose a wig.
No, I want to hear. I want to hear.
Lose a wig. No, I want to hear for sure. Seriously. You got, it's like Brian Wilson, right? Animal sounds? Sorry.
Well, that's the thing. He had pet sounds, and I'm still working on the title of this.
Yeah.
I'm still working on maybe, real pet sounds, more pet sounds. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I have to do some sort of reference.
If you need any recordings, just let me know.
We can send you.
I can send you
pit bull snoring.
I could send you. I can send you high quality.
Everybody's got
animal
that
sounds.
The pit bull snoring.
I have
funny.
really, really good. There's whatever. I can send you stuff because we do weird stuff, and there's donkey snorts. There's
the music's already done.
Yeah.
It's already produced, so I can't. I'm not going to add anything else to it. But thank you.
Okay.
How do you get? But no, wait. Going back to the animal sound thing.
Yeah.
But is there like a place where you go to? I want to do that. Like, I want to send all there's nature recordings of cicadas. Obviously, are easy for people, but there's things when you go out in nature that are weird and
really weird.
Damn, you better record this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then what do you do with it?
Frogs.
Hear everybody,
Frogs are the craziest sounding.
Frogs are awesome.
Yeah, there's tree frogs where we are out here. Today, where we're recording you, is in Maryland. Well, and it's going to air we're still here in Silver Spring, Maryland. They have tree frogs, and then the cicadas. There's this
they're high-pitched
thing going on here. And then if a deer walks by, you get a snort. And then let's not even bring in the dogs. The dogs add in their own snorts and everything.
Yep. Well, the frog thing surprised me because, we just think of ribbit, but
no.
the amount of sound and the different types of sounds and the textural nature of different frogs are crazy. They can sound like wood blocks being hit. They can sound like birds. It's really actually unbelievable. The variety of sounds that you can get from frogs.
The frogs here are high pitched compared to frogs that we've heard in the West. These are really high pitched, and you're like, "Is that a frog, really?"
Yeah. It's like you've got to grow a little. but then there's the squirrels, and squirrels sometimes sound like birds at times, and
especially when they're angry.
They have their different things, and you're like, "Wait a minute, that sounds like a wood." No, it's this kind of squirrel. So everywhere we go, that's kind of our thing. Is if you bird watch, you listen to the sounds before you see the birds. And the sound is what their calls or what define who they are more than looking at them at times. That's how you know. And it's wild because squirrels jump in there and screw you all up.
Yeah.
I will make sure that you get a copy of that album when it comes out. I think I think you guys will. It's going to be a problem for you. I can already see already that it may cause some sort of psychic schism. That
we have to drink.
I'm scared to actually send it. I'm scared to send it, but I'm going to send it to you.
Please do. We want it. We want it. We definitely do. I'm all game. So everyone, Steve-Horowitz.music.com is the place to go. Steve, thank you for joining us. We want to also thank the National Parks Arts Foundation for sponsoring today's show. We love the National Parks Arts Foundation. We do a show with them every first Friday where we interview artists in residence, and that's what the National Parks Arts Foundation does. whether you're a musician, an artist, like as a plein air painter, a photographer, a dancer, it really doesn't matter what medium of art or genre you're in. You can apply to be a month-long artist in residence in a national park. Hawaii Volcanoes has a recording studio. I'm just saying, Steve. And you overlook the ocean, and you get to go into the park and hang out and drink good coffee. And then there's like Chaco Canyon up in northern New Mexico, and then there's Dry Tortugas, just saying, your own private island off the grid, and you have to take people with you because, like, you're off the grid, and if something happens, you're really off the grid. Yeah. And it's super cool. So there's all kinds of opportunities, so check them out at nationalparksartsfoundation.org. But we're going to close. I love this. Really, I love this song, Bad Taste for High Culture. And thank you for joining us. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you so much, Steve. It's been a pleasure and fun.
Great to talk to you guys. Thanks for having me on your show.
Anytime. Thanks.